Camera number 417 is the Contax 167MT, a product of the mid-1980s, and it requires batteries to operate all its functions. So let's go ahead and put some batteries. We do that by undoing the base and undo that screw and then pull the base off, and then reveals that we need 4 AAA batteries. Have a piece of metal here, pin, that engages into the base, and then we can secure the base. The only other thing on the base here is the offset tripod mount and a mid-roll rewind button, which requires a pointy thing. And then turning to the front, we have the lens mount is the Contax Yashica mount, and the lens is taken off with the lens release button here at the top. I predominantly use the DSB 50mm 1.9 in my hand here. I did have a zoom lens as well. I think it was a 28 to 80 possibly. That was also a DSB lens. That's important, the lens, because we'll come back to that in a minute. That affects the a number of programs that are available for the camera. And then the only other thing is the depth of preview or stop down button, which closes us the aperture down to whatever aperture we have. And then on the other side here, where my finger is, we have a self-timer light. Turning to the side here, we have a flash synchronization port, and then on the other side there is a cable release. To undo the film door, we need to just press the button and slide it down, and then we can put our film in. You can see there's DX coding, although there is provision to set our own ISO. Just put the film in and then slide it across to the red line, close the door, and then we can turn the camera on, and then the film will be advanced to the first frame. Nice to see the inclusion of an indication here in the window, a dial that rotates when the film is on the spool, so that's reassuring. A number of times I've put a film in and only to find it hasn't been taken up, and I've been shooting blanks. Nice also to see the window here that can reveal what film we have in our camera. So to turn the film, camera on, we have the switch here, which also controls what metering mode we choose. Typically, if we turn it on, the first setting is what I would call matrix metering. We also have spot metering, and then we have an exposure lock position there. So the red button indicates that we've got the camera on. If we've got the camera off, there is no red button, so that's nice to see that. So having the camera on, we have the panel top liquid crystal display here that shows us our mode that we're in, what shutter speed, what aperture, and what frame we're on. And then we can choose the mode. Now, I mentioned earlier what lens. With the Yashica DSB lens, we really only are able to use 2 modes. We have aperture priority mode, where we select the aperture, and then the camera will respond by setting the appropriate shutter speed. And then we can choose manual mode, and we do that by pressing the button down, and then over the right hand side, just below the red button, we have a slider switch, and you can see that they are the only 2 modes available to me with this particular lens. There are Carl Zeiss T lenses or MM lenses, and then we get the full range of, we have a program mode, we have a high program mode, a low program mode. Those are for shutter speeds. There are various other modes available to us in program, but unfortunately I don't have that available. I only have manual mode and, if I just press the button, aperture priority mode. So that's something to bear in mind if we purchase this camera and we want to use program mode, you do need those MM or Carl Zeiss T-lens to be able to take advantage of that. Then the other button is our choice of ISO. Again, we use that in conjunction with the slider switch, so we can change our ISO, but we can also rely on DX coding if we want to. The film advance, film advance mode here, we can have a single frame or continuous frame. I think it's probably about 2 frames a second. And then we have a self timer. Let's just turn that on, and then we can see the little red light. There we go. So we just need to remember to turn that back to single or continuous. And we have a hot shoe here for our flash. In the viewfinder, the full range of information is on the top liquid crystal display, which mirrors what's seen in the top outside liquid crystal display. So our mode, shutter, speed, aperture, and all that good stuff. And then on the other side we have, as I say, our shutter actuation button, slider switch that's used in conjunction with those 2 buttons, our film rewind button, or rather button and slider switch, and then we hold that down, and then eventually when the film it stops. There we go. And the liquid crystal display flashes, showing that our film is now back in the canister. We then also have a exposure compensation dial of +2, -2. We also have an additional exposure compensation provision here. If we want to take 3 separate exposures with different exposure compensation values, this is the dial that we can use. So in aperture priority mode, we can set the dial to half a stop, and then what will happen is the camera will take 3 photographs, particularly if we've set it to continuous mode, and it will take 1 over, the same under, and the correct exposure. We can also make it 1 full stop if we want to. In program or shutter priority mode, we can extend that to 1.5. So that's useful to see there. I believe this was kind of a first on a camera. The exposure compensation was available in many cameras, but this, what was called programmed auto exposure compensation mode, is probably a first, I believe, although I'm happy to be corrected there. And I think that's pretty much it as far as the camera goes. I don't think there's anything else to mention. So very interesting to see this camera in action. And well, let's have a look at some of the images, shall we? So this has been the Contax 167MT, camera number 417.